Joy Taylor is the latest woman to prove once again why and how women in this country are the biggest sexual predators. And a lot of that has to do with thanks to the help of male feminists like Skip Bayless, who I'm going to talk about later on in this video. But right now, first things first, I want to focus on Joy Taylor and her little situation. Now, again, this is all alleged, of course, but apparently it's been exposed that she whored her way up the ladder, sleeping with that Acho dude that she co-hosts the show with, sleeping with an executive. And according to details within the paperwork, the legal paperwork that's been published, and this is the most important part, it highlighted how she planned on using Mr. Dixon, a white exec, by the way, at Fox Sports, and I'll explain how that's relevant. But she explained how she was going to use Mr. Dixon for her personal career, and then once she used him up, she was going to tell the company that he forced himself on her. And in his instance, not only would she be condemning him as a man, but the white element as well, since, her self proclaimed identity is of a black woman, despite being a half breed. And again, unfortunately, what Joy Taylor planned to do is very common here in the United States and in the Western world in general. Unless, in certain parts of the world you are Muslim, you can get away with sexually assaulting not just females, but pre adolescent females. But in general, this tool of, feminism is often used to attack men and trap men, scare men into doing things because they know that they can cry rape and most people will just automatically believe it, you know. And again, there's few instances where it wouldn't work, like I stated before. If it's another so-called minority that doesn't fit the narrative of what they want to condemn or who they want to condemn, and if it's someone of the LGBTQ, like a trans being accused or a gay dude being accused, like that Andy guy, Andy Cohen, who was accused of groping females. But it was a heterosexual male, and in any sort of significant position of power, then this can be held over their head. And that's what the Me Too movement was all about. It wasn't about catching sexual predators because it was mostly focused on men. And as we know, most sexual predators are amongst females and the alphabet sex called LGBTQs. And that's the case primarily because this system, this government, the court of public opinion enables them to get away with sex crimes and sexual harassment. And that emboldens them to behave like sexual predators far more frequent than heterosexual men. And the whole goal of the Me Too was to, force more feminist or feminazi nonsense and to, get men that they wanted to remove out of certain positions to get them removed and replace them with females. And that's why you've seen over the past few years, especially, post 2016, an uptick of females in various positions. Not just on camera like Joy Taylor or actresses and entertainers in other fields, but behind the scenes as well, given executive positions all in the name of Me Too. And Me Too has always been a scam. A feminist scam to disproportionately target men because it was never about protecting men from sex crimes or even children. It was all about what we can do for little old women. And again, the only thing it's done is further emboldening them to weaponize that to get what they want. And as long as there's no laws on the books that make women suffer not just financially but with prison time for lying on men, this sort of thing will unfortunately continue to happen to all men, for the most part, heterosexual men, no matter their so-called race or who they vote for. But I have to say, when this Me Too sort of nonsense, hits men that have made it known that they are a part of this identity politics BS, which means they're male feminists, men like Jay-Z, men like P. Diddy, and now the latest Skip Bayless. When it hits men like that, I have zero sympathy for them. But I will use their stories as prime examples to highlight for why there's nothing in it for any man to be a so-called male feminist. Which brings me to the Skip Bayless portion. Now, Skip Bayless, he's been accused of offering a woman, specifically a Fox Sports hairstylist, $1.5 million for sex. And again, I did watch something with Jason Whitlock because he used to work there, and he sort of speculated that Skip Bayless was probably saying things in jest, and now because of this lawsuit, they've decided to characterize it in a different way. Because again, we know of the workplace jargon, we know the phenomenon of the work husbands and the work wives, and Skip Bayless was, probably engaged in that or trying to engage in that, even just from a verbal standpoint. Sort of prove to himself uh, that he can still have women outside of his wife like him. But again, with these opportunistic, predatorial females, it's the dumbest thing in the world to even play with them like that, even if they seem that they're on board. I mean, because ultimately, when they choose, they can weaponize it against you. And thanks to male feminists like Skip Bayless, simps and cucks, these women are enabled to do that. Because, in an actual patriarchal society, this sort of nonsense would be punished. And a lot of their accusations in general just wouldn't be considered in the first place because, again, they have a high chance of lying about this stuff. And the women who are actually victims, I don't feel too much sympathy for them because these should be the main women in the front lines or on the front lines condemning these females and demanding punishment for these females. But even the real victims will side with women, and women weaponizing the system against men. And so if it's going to happen, I would rather this weaponization happen and target the male feminists that enable this BS. You know, and again, Skip Bayless, he's been a hardcore, excuse me for the stuttering, he's been a hardcore panderer, especially with the racial nonsense. I remember a couple of years ago where he proclaimed how he was raised by a black woman. Just unnecessary nonsense. But that's what these people do when they are in positions in these liberal, mainstream media, and that's what the mainstream media is. When they're part of this, liberal conglomerate. But we'll see how far this goes, and if it'll lead to maybe more people being exposed. But yeah. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that.